Now if this video does well, there could always be a part 2.
Okay, yeah, I know those aren't massive numbers or anything, but it's still definitely my best performing video in quite some time, so yeah, here's part 2. If you didn't watch my last video, in this series I'm trying to redesign the characters from Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Last time I redesigned the main 4 glam rocks in the game. I tried to change smaller things about them in an attempt to make them slightly more uncanny while not taking away what gave them personality, and I ended up being pretty happy with their designs. I got multiple comments asking me to redesign characters such as the shattered animatronics, the staff bots, the endos, and the daycare attendant. But here's the thing, I already like those designs as is. I feel like it would be pretty redundant and unnecessary to do that, despite the fact that I have minor issues with some of them. Instead, I chose the few remaining characters in the game that I feel have true design issues that should be fixed. There will only be 3 designs in this part, but unlike the last part, I have a lot more to say about one of them in particular. First up, I remade the big bad of the game, the final boss, the mysterious being locked away underneath the mall. A robot skeleton who set out to mimic the actions of the killer that started it all. Too bad the ending wasn't canon and made the character of Burntrap completely pointless. Anyways, Burntrap suffers from a problem that no other character in the game really suffers from. He just kind of feels rushed. I really like his design, proportions, movement, like everything about him from afar. But one problem I have with him is that basically every single part of his endoskeleton is recycled from another character. And that's a major issue when the skeleton is a very important part of him. So here's what I came up with. I kept him mostly the same, but I made his endoskeleton resemble the Mimic a lot more since they're, probably the same character. I did change some parts of the Mimic though to make the character design flow a little bit better and just to be more unique overall. And characters changing appearance purely for design reasons isn't foreign to this franchise. I also added one large bone on his thigh to add some visual interest and to just further show the actions that the Mimic took to look like this. But that's about it. I do think that this design is much more polished and interesting looking overall. The next character I did is a fan favorite, Vanny. I do think that her design is pretty okay as is, but I really don't like how skin tight and curvaceous it is. It doesn't really look like a poorly stitched together homemade suit, so I changed that. Here's what I came up with. I kept her stitching roughly the same because I liked her colors and the patterns on her. However, I did change her face shape slightly to make it just a little less cutesy and to further resemble a mascot suit. Of course, I made her suit a lot baggier as well. And lastly, I changed the stitching on her back to a zipper because how else is she going to get in and out of the suit? Overall, I think the bagginess and lack of perfection in this redesign make her feel a lot more like tangible and real, and I like it a lot better. I know Vanny had a short section, but I promise this next one will definitely make up for that. Lastly, the only character from Ruin that I wanted to redesign, and one of my least favorite designs in the franchise, we have M.X.E.S. I genuinely don't understand the appeal of this design. Like many people have said beforehand, he looks like a Scooby-Doo villain. He looks like a monster from Scooby-Doo. But his design does have some positives, so I'll get that out of the way first. His technological patterns and effects do look cool. His animations do actually make him feel somewhat threatening. And he does make an attempt. He does attempt to have a different and cool body shape and silhouette. But besides that, he just looks so unserious. He has an incredibly silly looking expressive face with a wide smile, an angry brow, and weirdly chiseled chin, but that could still look okay if his body didn't look like a wine glass. His hunched back and broad shoulders combined with his noodle limbs and like snake ghost tail thing just make him look silly, and the game wants you to find him mysterious and threatening despite that. So here's what I came up with, and oh boy, I have a lot more to say about this design than anyone else. Despite that, I still tried to keep a lot intact that people liked about this character. An example of this would be his non-existent arms. To prevent him from having the noodle limbs from the original, I gave him thicker joints to give the illusion of thicker arms while still having the admittedly cool electricity. Also, I did somewhat keep his tapering tail thing by giving him legs, but having them glitch out to what's basically a point. After making his shoulders less broad and removing his hunch, his body was practically done, but that still leaves the head. M.X.E.'s head is the aspect of his design that I took the most creative liberties with, because I felt like his original face was just fundamentally flawed. So I tried something more unique. Since he is a technological being, I gave him a sleek, minimalistic mask with cold, dead eyes, so you never really know what he's thinking. But behind that mask, he has some hidden sharp teeth for the moments in the game where he's either yelling or truly out to get you. This was a design that I had a lot of trouble making. I've been wanting to redesign this character ever since the game launched, but I could never create a unique design that I was really happy with until this one. I truly do love this design. It's sleek, and it's unique, threatening, cool, and certainly my boldest redesign yet in this series. Overall, while being more scattershot, I really like all of these designs, but that's about all of the characters from Security Breach that I truly do have issues with. If this series continues to do well, I might try to design some other characters from Help Wanted or the original Scott games. But if you want to see all that, like, subscribe, share the video, and all the other YouTube junk. But that's about it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Well, I won't see you because it's YouTube. It's not how it works.